My name is Tom Mespelli. I'm currently a junior in the Communication Department at Westfield State University. In this presentation, I hope to foster productive discussion that may lead to creative new solutions to the impossible problems that are at our doorstep. The presence of remote synchronous and online courses may linger. There may be an increase in students that commute or study entirely remotely. The impossible problem that I'll be discussing is engaging students in virtual communities, honors program communities to be specific. It's important to note that I will not be offering concrete solutions. My hope is that as community leaders and community members, together we can find ways to improve the quality of life for students. Heading into my junior year, I took on the role of Honors Program Communication and Events Intern. I applied for the position in March of 2020, but as the pandemic continued to unfold, it became clear that my job would be a bit more complex than planning events and creating promotional material to post on social media. No, I'd be heading into unexplored territory with the WSU Honors faculty. The majority of students would be taking classes remotely, whether from the security of their homes or the dorms of Westfield State University. Whatever the case, the social infrastructure that had come to be expected from a residential school such as WSU was compromised. Getting to know your classmates and making friends is an invaluable aspect of college, and arguably the most exciting part for newcomers. Of course, there are students like me who don't get excited at the idea of being thrust into a new environment surrounded by strangers. I'd like to think that the WSU Honors Program was known just as much for the community of people and the grace with which new students are welcomed as it is known for the academic opportunities it supplies. Every year, the Honors Program holds a welcome weekend, a grand celebration of the start of the semester aimed at new and returning honors students. It allowed for students to move in early and to commune with their cohorts at a variety of ice-breaking activities. 2020's welcome weekend was a bit different. There were plans for students to gather outside, but they fell through as the weather declined. And so, welcome weekend was limited to an hour on Zoom. Introductions, questions, and information. Seeing the bright and happy faces of incoming freshmen gave me life. They were like new recruits who'd yet to see the horrors of war. Just kidding. The honors program was actually pretty fun. I'd consider us the goofy part of campus that's not afraid to be ourselves and just have fun. In all seriousness, the freshmen are what gave this internship some purpose. Making friends and finding somewhere to fit in would arguably pose a bigger challenge than the schoolwork. Depression and anxiety were bound to run rampant during a semester of college in isolation. Our goal as leaders of the honors program was to provide a sense of community and to facilitate student interaction that was as authentic as possible given the circumstances. And so, the semester progressed. The student body met bi-weekly to chat and coordinate events. We threw Kahoot parties, held academic workshops, built gingerbread houses, and more. It was fun to do something over Zoom that wasn't classes, but it was still Zoom. It seemed as though the student leaders could not crack open the coconut, so to speak. It was incredibly difficult to find authenticity in our social settings. We were a community, we could have fun, but at the same time it felt hollow. Organize an event, invite students, repeat. There was a consistent flow of familiar faces, but relationships were not being formed. I don't think new students were forming the connections that they sought. There were some upperclassmen that knew each other, but the majority of participants were freshmen who'd yet to form social circles or make any friends at all. We were trying to build a community, but can that be done if there's a lack of one-on-one relationships being formed? Can you connect with a group of people without connecting to any one of them individually? The environment of Zoomland is very controlled, and it often feels as though you're not talking directly to anyone present. Eye contact is important, and we were missing that. On October 17th, the first in-person activity took place. It was a pumpkin carving and painting session that garnered a very positive response. Several months later, one of the freshmen that attended recalled that it was the first time she'd made friends at college. 2 full months into the school year. This was sad for me to hear, but not super surprising. So what was missing from the virtual gatherings? Was it even possible to overcome the obstacles proposed? There was very little one-on-one direct communication taking place. In these virtual gatherings, there is generally a large group of people following guidelines for an activity or discussing some topic. Conversations were often narrow, uninteresting, or forced, and it was difficult to get each person involved. I think if we had found a way to incorporate small group work, students would have found much more enjoyment and would have formed some real connections. This small group work could take the form of problem-solving games, current event discussions, or anything really, as long as members are properly oriented towards a common goal. Many of these insights have come about very recently. This semester, I finally have a professor who makes good use of the breakout rooms feature. Rather than spending most of class listening to the professor lecture or students present, we spend some time in small groups of 2 or 3 talking about interesting things. Rather than constantly focusing on course material, the professor allows us to connect to people to discover common ways of thinking and similar interests. In this class, it feels as though I'm forming relationships with the other students, and I find myself more invested in this ecology course than any other. I believe honors programs and other college communities can thrive virtually. I'm inviting the audience to email me with your experience and any immediate responses you might have to the following questions. As for remote learning, will it really have a lingering presence? There's no way to know for sure, but at the very least, we can better integrate non-residential students into the community. I think that taking a balanced approach to providing social structure, some online and some in-person gatherings, will reach and engage the greatest number of people possible.